Hey guys, this is Hector from the Insert Name FC podcast here to tell you guys about Cannadips. It is a great tasting, superior alternative to traditional dip using CBD in a way that is radical, enjoyable, and effective. It comes in 5 core flavors: wintergreen, mint, citrus, mango, and American spice. Cannadips CBD is the new evolution in dip, allowing guys to enjoy great, long-lasting taste without the downsides. If you guys want to go ahead and try them out, use the code BELLYUP20 at CannadipsCBD.com. Once again, BELLYUP20 at CannadipsCBD.com, and you'll get yourself 20% off your purchase. Thank you again for Cannadips for being a great partner of Belly Up Sports. Cody Gakpo. So if you guys don't know, or you guys haven't been keeping up with the Premier League for some weird reason, Liverpool beat Tottenham to clinch the Premier League title for this year, so they are officially Premier League champions. And Cody Gakpo, I believe, scored a goal in that game where he removes his jersey and unveils a shirt that says, "I belong to Jesus" on the shirt, which is in some way an homage to Ricardo Kaká, which he did. I mean, Ricardo Kaká was very well known for his faith. And I believe when AC Milan won the Champions League against Liverpool, he wore a very similar shirt to that. I think it was almost the same exact shirt, to be honest. I can't really tell you, but it's something that's very common. And obviously religion is a big thing in this game in general, of all things, of cultures and all that. Religion does take effect into that aspect. Well, Gakpo's facing a potential reprimand for wearing that shirt. And it goes under Law 4 of International Football Association Board's Laws of the Game, where players are strictly prohibited from showcasing any political, religious, or personal messages on their clothing. And this is kind of the part from the rule book. Equipment must not have any political, religious, or personal slogans, statements, or images. Players must not reveal undergarments that show political, religious, personal slogans, statements, or images, or advertising other than the manufacturer's logo. For any offense, the player and or team will be sanctioned by the competition organizer, National Football Association, or by FIFA. So, obviously, this comes in, so it's up to the Premier League on how they're going to deal with this situation. And I'm going to be honest with you, this is a very touchy subject. I think obviously religion, all the things that was addressed in that rule are in general just touchy subjects. Politics is a very touchy subject. Religion, very touchy subject. But like if you think about personal slogans, I mean, how's that any different from when a player, for instance, when Maradona passed away, a lot of players, wore shirts in honor of Diego Maradona. How come there was no reprimand from those guys? Because I mean, Messi was literally wearing a jersey of another team when he paid homage to Diego Maradona. I'm not here trying to tell you that one is worse than the other, and frankly, I don't even think that anyone should be reprimanded for this, and by any means. But and then also I think for Premier League, it's gonna just not be a good look for them if the Premier League does choose to punish Gakpo. And the reason why I say that is because there has already been kind of a discussion done already early in the season, and it goes back to when the Premier League was doing something for Pride, where, if you guys don't remember, players were given rainbow laces for their boots, and then captains were wearing a rainbow armband. I believe that was it for as far as anything else. And there was players that either refused to wear the rainbow captain's armband, refused to wear the rainbow laces, even some refusing to wear a rainbow warm up top. warm-up jacket, and then I believe one of the captain Mark Gehi I think he wrote I love Jesus and Jesus loves you on it, and was also facing reprimand for it. The reason why I'm saying that this is all just a touchy subject in general is because um and I don't necessarily agree with it. I'm just gonna be very transparent with y'all. I don't necessarily agree with this, but this is going to be a valid argument. Well, not a valid. It's going to be an argument that's used, and that's obviously you're gonna allow the promotion of gay pride and homosexuality and LGBTQ. You're gonna allow that, but you're not going to allow people to express their faith. So we can express people's individualities and where they feel in belonging, but not when it's in a religious setting. Um, and I think that that is kind of where FIFA is going to start kind of be in some essence kind of twiddling in a really narrow line here that it's going to anger a lot of people. It just is because if you're telling Gakpo is going to get fined for wearing a shirt that says "I belong to Jesus," um, and punish players for doing, and I mean obviously Margehi was given I don't know if he was punished. I don't think he was punished or anything, but he was given warnings about doing that, writing "I love Jesus" or "Jesus loves you" on on the captain's armband. Um, it just there's gonna be those people that are going to be very annoyed, are going to talk about how, oh, this is okay, but not, but God and religion is not. Um, it's it's a slippery slope. It's really what it's gonna be. Um, and I think it's gonna be interesting as things transpire. I don't think nothing else is gonna come of this, to be honest with you, but I do think that it's gonna be interesting how the Premier League response to this issue, because if they do choose to if they do give like some sort of fine or something for Cody Gakpo for showing his faith, showing, obviously in a big moment for him, right? Winning the Premier League, clinching the Premier League title, and he takes off his shirt, has the shirt that says "I belong to Jesus," and, and once again in a moment where he feels very blessed. He feels that if it wasn't for Jesus and his Lord and Savior, he wouldn't be in this whole. He wouldn't be where he is if it wasn't for his faith. And for you to then tell the guy like, hey, you can't be wearing that. And then obviously must have grown up a Ricardo Kaká fan because obviously he copied something that Kaká has done, and also no as far as I know, any reprimanding came from Ricardo Kaká wearing that shirt. And once again, everyone knew that Ricardo Kaká was very strong in his faith. So, and like, I'll be honest with you. It hasn't been till I started doing this podcast that I learned about this rule about international football, that you're not allowed to wear any religious statements or imagery, you know, on your equipment, and which is it's crazy to think because, like I said, religion is a big part of people's lives, a lot of, obviously, and I know that they're not saying like praying. They're not talking about praying, right? Obviously, they're talking about things on your equipment. And I mean, I'm sure I've seen guys that, draw crosses on their wrist tape. I've seen players that, uh, that plays the Star of David on their cleat, on their cleat. And then you want to talk about political. I mean, I don't think it's considered political by any means, but I mean, like, what about the players that wear flags? That have like something of their nation's flag on their gear. I know that a lot of players when they get their cleats customized, they put their name and also the country, the country that they represent, would that be considered a political statement, a political image? Because it's, another country. I'm just stirring the pot. I'm not being more specific. I'm not trying to like say what violates what, but the question, I think now, this is just a massive gray area. To be honest with you, because you're talking about personal slogans and statements, and you know, maybe there's some people out there that would view anything that's pro LGBTQ being personal slogans and statements and images that maybe, according to these laws from FIFA, that this is also against the rules. I'm not saying that it is, and frankly, I don't think I don't think it matters. I think it's perfectly fine to do the whole wearing the rainbow armbands, wearing the rainbow the laces, all those things. And I mean, I wouldn't be against a player if they choose to, outside of that specific period that the English Premier League was doing uh to promote pride, but like even outside of, I like, and I think it's like kind of similar to the NFL, when sir during I believe October, during October, players are allowed to on their wear pink equipment for breast cancer awareness. And then a player got fined because he decided to wear pink not during that month. And obviously, that became a very conflicting thing. As a matter of fact, I believe the NFL doesn't do this anymore, as a matter of fact. But and the player, the reason, and then they started this whole, I think that kind of started this whole thing about my cause, my cleats, which is another thing that NFL now, this new initiative that the NFL does, which is during a specific time period, I think maybe a 2 week span, where players are allowed to wear cleats that are not in accordance with the color scheme of their team, because obviously they wear these cleats that are customized, showcasing a specific charity that they support, an organization that they support, or just something that their cause, what they want to represent, be put on on these cleats for them. And then they auction those cleats, and then obviously those proceeds go to the charity of that player's choosing. And so, and obviously when it's back to regular scheduled programming, if a player is seen to be wearing cleats that are not within the confines of their color scheme, or just black and white, they get hit with fines. Like I was saying, this is not important things, but obviously the whole personal message and slogan is what I was trying to, at least try to point out. But I think it obviously is not just a soccer thing. It's obviously clearly a thing that happens across the world. Um, I'm all for all the promotions when it comes to LGBTQ and just normal, just overall just human rights, and showing that this game is welcoming and open to everyone from all facets of the world. Doesn't matter what your preferences are, what your religion is. Like, it should be a welcoming environment. I know that that's not necessarily the constant, but that's at least the objective of why we call this the beautiful game, because of the fact that you have people from all over the world being able to play this game and agree upon this game, where this game becomes a universal language that you don't even have to speak the same language, but you know how to play the game. And I think that that's important to let it be known that this is open to everyone, that all is welcome in this kind of environment. And I think that it's cool that we're able to have this period to let these people know from the LGBTQ community that they are welcomed here. They are welcome to support. Like, they don't need to feel that they have to hide from it. Like, everyone's a sports fan. Anyone can be a sports fan at the end of the day. Uh, but I think at the same time, like, you have to also, and I don't want to say accommodate, because I don't think that's the wrong word, but match that same energy to the other things. Because once again, like I say, open to all, and I mean that. And so, for people that are religious, and this goes back to the whole thing, we can disagree, and that's perfectly fine, but we can coexist at the end of the day. And I understand that that's kind of some of the things that I know some people that tend to be religious don't necessarily agree upon certain things, and have Trust me, I've seen the comments. I've seen the comments on any pro team's LGBTQ promotion. I've trust me, I've seen them. I know I know what they're saying. And you're gonna have those people, unfortunately. It's just kind of just what happens, and I wish it wasn't the case, but that's the world we live in right now. Um, maybe there can be a change at one point. Once again, change is change isn't as fast as what you want it to be, and that's the reality. But like I said, where I was coming back to this is just the fact that if you're going to be able to be a welcoming space for people of all preferences, at the same time, I feel like you have to also make this a safe space for people of religious backgrounds. I think I always think about that PSG player who refused to play a PSG match because he didn't want to have rainbow a rainbow number on his back. Yes, it may sound crazy to everyone else, but to him that he just doesn't agree with it. And I think, like I said, we can agree to disagree, and I think that that's an important part. Um, I mean, to me, I just look at it is in this context, I look at it as just it's just a number. Like I don't, it doesn't mean that I'm betraying anything or like if I was a religious person, like which I'm not really that great of a religious person, but what I'm saying is I don't necessarily think that this wearing a rainbow number is necessarily you're betraying your religion, especially even if you're depending on what your faith is. But I know that there's some people that are just won't budge, and just a rainbow number in general, um, it's just that's the line that they cannot cross, and I totally get that in some aspect. Um, and I think that's the other side. You have to also see the other side of it. And I think that this is where you're gonna see what the other side feels because I think that they're gonna bring out that art, and I guarantee you, there's probably comments. As a matter of fact, when I was reading the article that was covering this story, there was comments literally on that article that were literally saying, "So you're gonna promote, the LGBTQ stuff, but you can't promote religion." And so I trust, and this is me just trying to as censor as humanly possible because there was some choice words that I'm not going to share on here. But you can thank me, Kelsey, on that part. But yeah, it's unfortunate. I think it's honestly I think it's weird that like religion, something as simple as wearing a shirt that says I belong to Jesus, it doesn't seem harmful to me. But like, once again, it's perspective. Maybe somebody that sees someone wearing a shirt that says I belong to Jesus is offensive to them. You really don't know, but at the same time, like you can't do one thing and then not do something else. Like I feel like you have to find some sort of middle ground. And I think, when you have a period where you can support uh individuality, I think you need to be able to also, eh, you know, allow people to express their religion. And I mean, it's not like I don't. Gakpo wasn't doing anything that I don't think anyone else would have done in that moment if they would have had I belong to Jesus. I mean, was there any reprimand for when players were showing support to Luis Diaz when his father was kidnapped? Was someone people who had shirts that were showing their support for Luis Diaz. Um, did FIFA punish Christian Pulisic for having the shirt? When he showed his shirt and it said "Man in the Mirror," taking a jab to Memo Ochoa. And was he reprimanded for that? And if that's the case, then because personal slogan. Like if you're gonna pull this law, then enforce it. But enforce it to everything if that's the case. But if you're just gonna pick and choose when you want to choose this thing, I think it's ridiculous. And so, um, I don't see anything wrong with this. I don't see anything wrong with the "I belong to Jesus" shirt. I don't see anything wrong with wearing rainbow laces. I don't see anything wrong with wearing a rainbow captain's armband. You know, once again, this is why this is the beautiful game. Is all facets of the world is welcome to this. And so yeah, I can. I'm sure maybe we'll probably not hear anything after this. I'm sure like Premier League is probably gonna want to axe this as soon as humanly possible because it's gonna it will open a can of worms for sure for them. So I expect nothing else to come from this. I expect Gakpo not to face any punishment. I probably would expect Gakpo to still be wearing the I belong to Jesus shirt. So and I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Who is that guy?